And the death chamber at San Quentin Prison is now closed as hundreds of condemned inmates get a reprieve from Governor Gavin Newsom. Last week, the governor signed an executive order putting executions in California on hold. So Phil Matier and I asked former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown, is this on principle? Is this a way to avoid making decisions about each inmate? Or is it just to create national news?
Well, create the national news. I don't think that was the sole motivation or should be the sole motivation. Let me assure you that we were about to hit the ceiling when it comes to the number of people that would be eligible for the death penalty. And if over the next 5 or 6 months he had to say yes or no every month, it would be a bad way to do it. He's doing it in a gross fashion, just eliminating the need for anybody to show up to say, give me a break.
Okay,
yeah,
one other option would have been to change the law. Now, there is Mark Levine, state assemblyman from Marin County, has said, I want a constitutional amendment on 2020 on the death penalty on the California ballot. Do you think that's going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, you're looking at Democrats. That's going to take a 2/3 majority vote, which Democrats have, but not all Democrats are the same. Sort of in the state capitol, you've got Democrats from more moderate districts who are going to be under tremendous pressure not to do that. But look, we've already had an expression of voter sentiment about the law, and voters elected to speed up the process, and that's why I think this is all going to end up in court.
At the same time, however, we've seen a support for the death penalty steadily drop since the days of Governor George Duke-Majan. We've seen it steadily drop, and pollsters say it's right at that edge where it's going to cross over like marijuana and gay marriage. Mayor Brown, do you think if they put it on 2020, it would pass, or would it be a tough fight?
Well, I think it'll be a tough fight. Whenever the death penalty goes on, it'll be a real tough fight. And then you got to worry about some nut doing what occurred in New Zealand just over the last 24 hours, where some 30 or 40 people were killed. What happened at Sandy Hook? What happened in Vegas? All those things play an important role when it's that close in terms of the numbers.
Well, I mean, you also have to remember there's two reasons why people are opposed to the death penalty. One is because they have a moral opposition, and the other is because they say it takes too many resources. It's too expensive. We want it, but we just want it to be cheaper. And parsing out those folks, you know, you say like the opinion in favor of the death penalty is going down. It is, but it's a mix of both of those things.
Gavin Newsom, one of the first things he did after he signed this, spent Friday out of the state. He will be back Monday. He's doing the national talk show circuit.
Well, there's no.
Is this
surrogate.
about President Newsom's run?
Well, I think that if Newsom was in the race, he would be defining the dialogue around all of the people who are in fact running, almost as if that woman from New York with that Green New Deal that she's talking about, she's somewhat defining what these candidates are going to have to say. I'm sure every one of them are saying, oh my God, what the hell is this guy Newsom doing?
You know, I know that the mayor was saying that he thought that a mass shooting might sway the debate, but I thought that the evidence about the death penalty as deterrence was somewhat questionable.
Well, that may be true, but then you see something really horrible happen in your community, and it's a very natural reaction to say, we want to have this available to us, and why don't we if it's gone? Okay. I do want to point out the governor only put these things on hold. He could commute sentences. He could grant clemency. He hasn't done that. So a subsequent governor, for example, could start everything back up, and the same folks who are on death row would still be eligible under a new administration whenever that happens. So he hasn't gone as far as some people think he has, and maybe he's gone farther than other people would like. But it's still hanging over there for those folks who are on death row. Phil Matier and I asked former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown just how many Democratic presidential candidates he thinks will be on the final ballot.
Obviously, fewer than the ones that are actually running. Believe me, it looks like nobody is going to quit.
Well, and also, I mean, Democrats didn't do themselves any favors by appearing to put their finger on the scale for Hillary Clinton last time around. Now the party has to be super equal when it comes to time and debate.
That's an interesting point.
They're kind of stuck. They have to give everybody a shot.
How are they going to manage it? We're at what now? I've lost count. Is it 16, 17?
It's somewhere in that neighborhood. As a matter of fact, Phil, I suspect that you will see a different method by which these candidates are going to be judged No longer will it be the national spotlight, as was the Hillary Clinton piece, until you get to the runoff stage. Before that, it's all going to be almost like the neighborhoods of San Francisco in the 11 districts.
Well, yeah, we're going to be looking at 3 different tiers of dating. You've got sort of the front runners, and then there's going to be 2 sort of kiddie table debates. And in order to stand out in that kind of field, you're going to have to do something totally bonkers to get yourself from the kiddie table up to the grown-up table.
And one of the grown-ups has not shown up yet at all. Biden is allegedly a grown-up. At least that's what people say. And he has not shown up yet. And this guy that just showed up yesterday,
Beto O'Rourke,
Beto, he was a grown-up. Can you imagine if you're Kamala Harris, what you're feeling like now? Because you were there. You were right under Biden. And all of a sudden, Elizabeth, all of a sudden, Amy, all of a sudden, somebody else. I mean, it gets to be tough.
So is that going to lead, do you think, to more of a push to the left? Like you said, to get attention, you have to say something that grabs attention. And a lot of this is going to be done on cable news. I mean, this is where you're not going to be doing house parties. You're just going to be trying to get on whatever show you can to get out there.
Well, I mean,
does this encourage, where does this leave the middle, the Democratic middle?
Well, I mean, if you're standing on a stage, in a 2nd or 3rd tier debate, and you're saying we have to come together to find centrist solutions, like that's not going to move the needle for you at all. So yeah, you have to stake out a place
where
that's
is
more
the middle?
clear.
And then you got one more problem. Newsom is running around as if he's a candidate without being a candidate, with a subject matter that requires people to answer. Can you imagine how soon each one of these people are going to say, where do you stand on the death penalty?
Is that deliberate by Gavin?
Deliberate? I think Gavin is doing what Gavin does best. He comes up with a brilliant idea, something that will get all kinds of attention, like same-sex marriages. He's got it. Death penalty gets you there.
So what do you think the chances are that Democrats will coalesce around whoever emerges as the front runner and victor eventually?
It's going to be really tough. I mean, imagine if you're running and you're running against 15 other candidates. That's 15 other teams doing op research on you, trying to smear you. And so whoever is going to emerge is going to be pretty beat up. And last time around, we saw a lot of folks who supported Bernie Sanders saying, we're still not on board. We still don't want to vote for Hillary Clinton. And they had a lot of problems bringing that all together at the end. And this time it promises to be even more dramatic and potentially more bloody between the candidates, so that they could really do some damage to the party and to their own chances.
Gotcha. All right,
yeah.
beat up or maybe battle tested, but moving on.